Am I the jerk for exposing my neighbor at a block party over my late grandma's recipe? My grandma Ruth passed away last spring, and the one thing everyone in our small town remembered her for was her honey cornbread. She'd made it for every potluck, funeral, and county fair for almost 40 years, and she never wrote the recipe down anywhere except on one stained index card she kept taped inside her kitchen cabinet. When she died, that card came to me, along with her house, which I moved into that summer. My new next-door neighbor, Denise, was incredibly kind to me during that whole period. She brought over casseroles, checked in on me, sat with me on the porch some nights when I couldn't stop crying. So when she asked, gently, if she could see Grandma's famous cornbread recipe, just to feel a little closer to her memory, I didn't think twice. I photographed the card and sent it to her, and she promised it would just be for her own kitchen table. 2 months later, my sister called me laughing, asking if I'd seen the county fair section of the local paper. There was Denise, holding a blue ribbon, grinning next to a photo of the exact cornbread, described in the caption as a treasured family recipe passed down through generations. No mention of Grandma, no mention of me, just Denise, standing there like it had always been hers. I felt sick. I called her immediately, and she acted confused about why I was upset. Recipes aren't really anyone's property once you make them your own, she told me, like she'd rehearsed it. I asked her to just tell people the truth, that it came from my grandmother, and she brushed me off, saying it wasn't a big deal, and I was being dramatic over cornbread. My husband, Sam, told me to let it go, that arguing over a blue ribbon wasn't worth the neighborhood drama. I tried. I really did try to let it go for almost 3 weeks. Then came our street summer block party. Folding tables, string lights, half the cul-de-sac out on the Andersons' lawn. Denise was there holding court near the dessert table, and I heard her launch into the story again, this time to a bigger crowd that included the mayor's wife and 2 women from the Historical Society. She was describing how the recipe had been in her family for generations, how her own grandmother used to make it back in Ohio. Something in me just snapped. I walked over, pulled Grandma's actual recipe card out of my bag, where I'd been carrying it around like a talisman since the funeral, and held it up in front of everyone. I said, loudly enough for the whole dessert table to hear, that the recipe belonged to my grandmother Ruth, that Denise had gotten it from me directly 2 months earlier, and that she'd apparently forgotten to mention that part when she accepted her ribbon. The lawn went dead silent. Denise turned bright red, stammered something about context, and eventually just walked back into her house without finishing her plate. The mayor's wife looked mortified. One of the Historical Society women actually pulled out her phone to photograph the recipe card, saying Grandma deserved credit in the town archive either way. Since then, the block has basically split down the middle. My aunt and my sister both told me Grandma would have been proud of me, that she'd have loved the show. A couple of neighbors quietly agreed Denise had it coming, but others, including Sam, think I humiliated her unnecessarily in public when I could have just told the paper privately or let it go entirely, and that I turned a cornbread dispute into something people are still gossiping about a month later. Denise hasn't spoken to me since, and honestly, I don't know if I regret it or not. Am I a jerk, or